Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. My name is Stephen D. Kelly. This is the Stephen D. Kelly Show. We are Truth Cat Radio, www.truthcatradio. It's another wonderful Thursday in La Puente. I know. Yeah, I give that information out. That's just, that's how I roll. But let's see, it's 67 degrees Fahrenheit, sunny. It is September 19th, 2004. I'm getting really close to this information because I'm redoing all my shows. I'm putting them on a new Rumble channel, and it's, 500 something shows I've got to go through, and each one takes time to upload. You have to type out text and descriptions, and it takes, wow. I mean, it's fun, but I'm barely getting out of 2019. Okay, so I got a long way to go, but I am enjoying it. I know it needs to be done because there's stuff's all over the place. It's just not organized properly, and so now I'm finally getting it organized, and hopefully everybody will benefit from that. Even in my posterity, hopefully the show will stay up there and all that good stuff. Okay. The title of the show tonight is very inflammatory indeed, and it is "The Government is the Enemy." Now, you may think, oh, no, you can't say that. That's not legal. That's treasonous, whatever. That's what are you proposing? What are you, communist, blah, 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 blah. All kinds of funky things people say. But it's something that I've been really needing to address, and it seems kind of like well, you got to be a fool not to see it. I could very easily spend the night and several other nights talking about all the various crimes, the sins of our government. The false flags and the things they do, the soft kills, the chemtrails, the vaccines, you name it. On and on and on and on and on. And we've talked about the nature of the government and the fact that it's just a mafia, and we could get into all the different aspects of what it used to be and when it was formed by the founding fathers, and those guys were Masons. When you look at the definitions that were given for what is a government, they tend to propagandize it into very specific categories. Like, for instance, well, let's see here. The government is a system or a group of people governing an organized community, generally a state. And they go into the definitions of what makes a government up: the legislature, and executive, and judiciary. And they talk a lot about the government is mostly all about organizational policies, which are enforced, and a mechanism for determining policies. In many countries, they use a constitution, which is a statement of its governing principles and philosophy. Right? So key here, I think, is policy. It's all about policy. The government sets up a policy. In other words, if you're living in a country where the group of people have set up a government and they have established policy, which is anti-human and let's just say satanic in nature, that would be the policy of the government. And the mechanism for determining a policy could be the very thing that becomes corrupted in order to allow for the determining of bad policy. Now, they talk about what types of government exist. Different types: independent national governments, subsidiaries. But the main types of political systems recognized, as according to Wikipedia, are democracies and totalitarian regimes. You're either a democracy or a totalitarian regime. What kind of bullshit is that? First of all, I will point out that the United States is not a democracy. It is a republic. But we keep having this word rammed down our throats. What we practice in this country, what we should be practicing, is republicanism. We are a republic. We are not a democracy. We're based on democratic principles, but that is not the same thing. We are a republic specifically. As far as all the other governments being totalitarian regimes, and between this is different types of authoritarian regimes, hybrid regimes, and somewhere in there fits monarchies, which are considered standalone entities or hybrid systems, separate from the main three. And they talk about how these governments are formed and what makes them legitimate. Is there electoral contest or hereditary succession? Or is there something involving violence and coups? What it's all about is the philosophy of how the political power is obtained. That is part of the definition of what a government is, what determines what the government is. Now, the other words that we really want to look at kind of hard tonight before we talk about some of the important stuff we need to get into is treason and terrorism. Now, of course, I've been accused of treason. I've had the FBI at my front door accusing me of treason. I asked them to define the word. Of course, they couldn't. We'll do that tonight. We'll define the word. Of course, treason has many, many broad definitions. Unlike terrorism. Terrorism is relatively simple, but they're both very similar. Treasonous acts are terrorist acts. Anyway, so we want to look at that. But before we do, without going into all the long list of crimes committed by said government, the one that I'm saying is the enemy, I could say this, before we even get into the obvious, I could say this, that this is all about Occupy the Getty. Occupy the Getty. Why do we want to occupy the Getty? Save the children. Save the children from who? The fucking government. It's the fucking government. I don't care who you elect. You know, I'm seeing a newfound push out there on the social media, you know, the one that I've been kind of getting kicked off of, trying to hijack the Occupy the Getty mission and to say again that Trump is the only one that's innocent, that has been the only one to help fight against the satanic cabal against child trafficking. Yet the 4 years that he was in office, he did absolutely nothing to help the Occupy the Getty mission except for shut me down. And go look at all the gold and go, wow, yeah, I see you Trumpers don't want to hear that shit. Well, anyway, the point is that he's part of that government. You don't elect changes in the government. It's the same thing. It's a thing that's been going on for hundreds of years, and the corruption runs deep. And the policy is inbred into the system. The policy that's been created by these evil people through their mechanisms of creating this policy. That's what it's all about, policy. It's like dealing with law enforcement. And law enforcement, which is enforcement of policy, they also have policy. They have policy on how they enforce. And they follow those policies, and that's their rules. That's their orders. So the Occupy the Getty mission asks you, is it just, is it treasonous to fight against an entity, a government, an organization, a policymaker that is actually involved in the industrial scale kidnapping, torture, murder, cannibalism of our children on great, great scales for satanic reasons. Now, perhaps this policy is not out in the open, but the bottom line is this is the government. This is the government that built the bunkers. This is the government that maintains the bunkers. This is the government that lives in the bunkers. This is not people that you can vote out, but these are the people that control this thing that you think that you're voting to control yourself. It doesn't matter what you think. It's wicked. No, we can't stomach, we can't tolerate, we can't live in a society where the ruling class has taken it upon themselves to cannibalize our children. No, we cannot tolerate that, and we cannot tolerate any sort of policy that enables it to be done, and any sort of policy that protects the people that are doing it. So obviously it's wrong. Now, the laws regarding terrorism and treason, not necessarily terrorism, but mostly treason, have to do with violating the policy. doing something against the policy, being disloyal. I want to talk about the real nature of this particular government that you guys think is actually a government that you're voting for, and that is it's clearly not in control, and it's clearly been corrupted and hijacked by multiple entities. But the one that is the most obvious today, of course, is Israel. And when I say Israel, I'm talking about the Rothschild Khazar Mafia, Intertel, not this fake country that never had anything to do with David or Solomon. But they just did this operation where they blew up a bunch of pagers in Lebanon. And a lot of people have been talking about this, of course, but I don't think that anybody has really been paying attention to the big thing, the big picture. Now, the point is that, just to start with, Mossad, the Israeli government, conducted an operation that took years, where they basically got involved in the electronics business, the pager business, and they developed a technique where they would modify these devices and sometimes actually have, from what I understand, explosive, in this case PETN, injected into or inserted into the batteries, the lithium batteries. It's funny because if you look at the chemical diagram for this compound, it looks like a swastika. I'm sure that is something that didn't escape these Israeli scientists when they were making this stuff. But the point is that because the cell phone systems, obviously all of cell phone systems communication has been compromised and controlled and surveilled by the enemy, again, the enemy, the government, in this case Israel, but they are the same people that control our government. So Hezbollah and those types decided that they would not use cell phones, but they would actually purchase large amounts of pagers, and then some, if they wanted somebody, they would page them. Of course, this is very old school. It's what we did for cell phones. And they would call that person up using a landline. Well, they bought like 5,000 pagers, and they bought them from a company that was, well, an aftermarket company. It was a Motorola pager. It came from Taiwan, but basically it was modified somewhere else, possibly even in Hungary. Anyway, a lot of money traded hands, and bottom line is these 3,000, 5,000 pagers got distributed amongst military personnel, intelligence personnel, government personnel in Hezbollah, in Lebanon. But not just those guys, it also went out to police officers, firefighters, people involved in, government, that kind of stuff. Just when I say obviously government, but it also meant having to deal with safety services and things like this. So for whatever reason, and there's a lot of reasons you could expect, but what happened is they all started blowing up all at once. They just started blowing up. And of course, it wasn't a huge explosion, but it killed about 9 people, injured about 5,000. Among those killed was a baby or a young child who was playing with the pager. Obviously, aside from the mechanics of a pager, it's basically a small thing stuck to the side of your belt and clipped on your belt, and has these little lithium batteries. Of course, there's explosives in this case, but point is, it was enough to maim somebody that had this on their side. And the one thing that you have to consider, I mean, first of all, obviously as a military thing, this is a secret. This is something that nobody has done before. Leave it up to the Israelis, of course. And the idea was, of course, if they went into a battle with Lebanon, and they could use this thing to disrupt the communications and cause chaos and basically injure, possibly, and maim several high-ranking people. Well, it didn't happen. It just all of a sudden went off, and people suspect that what happened was that the Hezbollah forces discovered what was going on, and the Israelis, once they realized that they had been discovered, decided to cash in on the project and blow them all up, resulting in what happened. But that wasn't just pagers. It turned out that they also did it to Motorola walkie-talkies. Of course, it sounds like it's got military significance. And you think, well, wow, I guess that's just military stuff. No, it actually went into batteries used in scooters, electric bikes, civilian stuff. It went into big batteries used to collect power from solar systems so that you could be off grid. You could hold that battery. You could hold that electricity during the nighttime. Those things start exploding, burning houses. Now, before I go on too far, I just want to get through past this one point. This is terrorism. This is terrorism, which I suppose is a good idea to go ahead and look at the definition of terrorism. Now, of course, you look at fucking Wikipedia, the first thing you see on their definition of terrorism, of course, is Twin Towers being exploded. Now, once again, this was done by fucking Israel. Your government is the enemy. This was not some group of Arabs in Saudi Arabia or whatever. This was Israel. This was nuclear bombs built in Israel with American money and American technology from the Star Wars program under Ronald Reagan, and they used that to put it in these buildings to explode them on cue, and they have the same type of fucking bombs all over the United States, including under the fucking Getty. Are you seeing the picture here? You've got, today we have Tesla, not Tesla, but X, the woman who's like the CEO of X, not Elon Musk, and she's making jokes about these exploding pagers. New York Times or whatever, CNN, whatever one of these big outlets is, they're making jokes about this. Ding, 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 boom. Something of this nature. The point is, people, and then what happens? Of course, I believe it was the British, probably, I don't remember what the name of their paper was, the Daily Mail, perhaps, somebody, I don't know, could have even been the Washington Post, but they deflected it. And they go, what? Instead of realizing what Israel got away with, this massive, huge act of terrorism, they said, oh no, what would happen if Putin did that to his enemies? Talk about projection. Putin didn't do this shit. Israel did it. We supported it. We still support it. If part of our policy is to support it, our government supports it as a matter of policy. To go against that policy is treason. So why do you do it? How many thousands, millions of people are they going to kill before you realize that your government is the fucking enemy? So let's talk about these battery business. You know, here's the funny thing. This woman that's head of X, you know, I'm thinking, she thinks that's really funny. What about, Tesla and Elon Musk? Does that mean that every single fucking Tesla is going to have PTN in it, in its lithium battery, capable of exploding that thing in a huge fireball, just like the Mossad was doing? What's to stop them from doing that to every single device, every single cell phone? You're ever going to know now if that cell phone you're holding up to your side of the head is going to blow up, not because of the failure of the lithium battery, which is dangerous enough in itself, but because somebody blew it up? They showed their hand. They showed their cards. Don't you realize they could do this to every single one of you with a cell phone? Every single one of you. Your electric scooters, your electric bicycles, your Tesla batteries on the side of your house, your Tesla car, your charging station for your phone. Take your pick. Anything with a battery. A lithium battery specifically. Of course, it's got to be a built-in battery, something that you're not supposed to get into. Obviously, these Motorola devices were modified, but the point is that they're pointing at Russia. Russia would not do that. Russia does not attack infrastructure. Russia does not attack civilians like that with terror. That's something we do. We blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. Russia didn't do it. We blamed it on Russia. What can I say about terrorism? In the broadest sense is the use of violence against non-combatants. Now, this is a catch here, to achieve political or ideological aims. The term used in this regard primarily to refer to the intentional violence during peacetime, alleged peacetime, or in the context of war against non-combatants, mostly civilians, and neutral military personnel. Neutral military personnel? You mean like the Americans and the Europeans and the NATO troops in Ukraine? Let's see. Modern terrorism, evolving from earlier iterations, employs various tactics to pursue political goals, often leveraging fear as a strategic tool to influence decision makers by targeting densely populated public areas such as transportation hubs, airports, shopping centers, tourist attractions, and nightlife venues. Terrorists aim to instill widespread insecurity, prompting policy changes through psychological manipulation and undermining confidence in security measures. Security, security, give me security. Policy changes, people. Are you listening? This is not law. This is policy. Think about it. What is law? Is law policy? What's the difference? Various organizations have used terrorism to achieve their objectives. These include left-wing and right-wing political organizations, nationalist groups, religious groups, revolutionaries, and ruling governments. Gee, like the one in the U.S.? In recent decades, hybrid terrorist organizations have emerged, incorporating both military and political arms. Well, first of all, before I go any further, I'm just going to remind everybody that Occupy the Getty is not violent. There's nothing violent about Occupy the Getty. Nothing at all. We have no intention of laying siege to the Getty. Sure, we'd like to surround it with 10,000 people, but we're not going to touch anything. We're not going to trample any bushes. We're not going to break any fences. We're not going to harm anything. We'll follow your damn laws, but our purpose is to get this exposed. But there's plenty of ways we can do that in social media, and obviously we are doing it, where you wouldn't try to run us into World War III and try to kill everybody like you are with your policy. Doesn't matter what the American people want. We don't want war, but you sure do. You know who wants war? People in Israel. It's something like what they say, at least 40, 60% of the people in Israel want war with Iran. They need it. You know, that's really weird to me, because when I think of Iran, I think of Persia, and I think back of Cyrus and Persia and how Cyrus rescued both damn kingdom of Israel and turned them loose, rescued them from the Assyrians, rescued them from the Babylonians, allowed them to return home and rebuild some semblance of a civilization. What do? They lay siege to the ancestors of Cyrus. That's how they show their gratitude for their existence. They shouldn't even exist if it was up to the Persians. The Persians could have easily taken them back and turned them into slaves, but no, they were released. Let's talk about treason a little bit. Of course, there's quite a few definitions, but let's look at the actual definition of the word. It's a noun. It's the betrayal of allegiance towards one's own country, especially by committing hostile acts against it or aiding its enemies in committing such acts. So hostile, I assume, is violent. Okay, one could argue what this hostile means, but if it's violent, I mean, obviously, I don't like it. Is that hostile? I am against the child-eating nature of this government. Does that make me hostile? But I'm not aiding the enemy. Of course, I think that Putin's actually right on. I certainly love his policy more than I do ours. Let's see, number 2, the betrayal of someone's trust or confidence. Wow, treason. I don't see how. That sounds more like a love affair type thing. Number 3, the offense of attempting to overthrow the government of the state to which the offender owes allegiance, or of betraying the state into the hands of a foreign power. Disloyalty, treachery. Again, disloyalty, what the fuck does that mean? Treachery, again, what the fuck does that mean? But the key word here is owes. The one you owe allegiance to. The one they say you're betraying. The one you're acting against. You owe that allegiance. Now what? Why do you owe? You owe because you're born there. You owe because what? What? Because you're born there. Because they say you do. Love it or leave it. No, you know what? This thing calling itself a government, again, are cannibals. They're cannibal Satanist bastards that have taken our money and built palaces to Satan under our feet where they eat our children. I do not owe them shit. I've devoted my life to ending their reality. I challenge them to do something about it. This is why we do this mission. Does that make me treasonous? Treason is the crime of attacking a state's authority to which one owes allegiance. This typically includes acts such as participating in a war against one's native country, attempting to overthrow the government, spying on its military, its diplomats, its secret service for hostile and foreign power, attempting to kill its head of state. A person who commits treason is known as a traitor. What's worse, a Benedict Arnold or a Judas? Obviously, again, are we in a war? Fuck yeah, we're in a war. What's the definition of a war? Can you have a war that's not violent? Well, it's not violent in 3D. Definitely violent in the 4D. Let me tell you something about this Jedi business. I know a lot of people, you guys think this is stupid, but it's not. This is really where the power of the world is, right here. It's in the super soldiers. It's in the astral. This is why the Occupy the Getty mission is such a fucking threat, because here's the thing. This power, this authority, this structure that controls everything, their strongest weapon is the people that they find, that they recruit, that they train to become what they would like to be. Jedi would turn out to be Sith because they can't do it. Because those people have to be evil to do that. Even if they are, they're limited. They're limited. They don't do what we do. And ultimately, many of them are going to realize what they're doing. They're going to have a come to Jesus moment, and they're going to join us. That's why so many of them now work for us. And let me tell you something. There's a lot more of us, because it doesn't take that much to create a Jedi compared to what they have to do to make a Sith. And that's the power of Jesus right there. It's pretty incredible, to be honest with you. And I'll tell you, is that violent? No. Is it destructive? Sort of. Is it treasonous? There's no policy. There's no policy. We're dealing with an entity, a portion, a control structure that may control the government, may be responsible for the government, may be the ultimate ruler of this system that we consider a government that creates the policy that we live under. But they're not a government. And nothing that we do against them they can say anything about or they can do anything about. So I know in the short term and the long term how this plays out, especially now. So with respect to this government per se, if you're so stuck in a Stockholm syndrome, if you are so embedded into the matrix that you think for a moment that this thing, this body, this policy-making mechanism that is entrenched into this territory that we call this country, if you think for a moment that you could possibly ever have anything to do to correct the hundreds of years of evil that have been inflicted upon that body, you're wrong. You can't be saved. From the first day, well, of course, the colonial system is what it is, but you know, if you look at Washington, D.C., it's covered in satanic monuments. It's covered in Masonic symbolism. The whole thing's going to need to go. It's got to be raised. The energy there is not to be the place of leadership for this country. So ultimately, when the time comes, yeah, that's going to have to go. Is that treason? Is that terrorism? To desire to see the entire base of what we call our federal government basically bulldozed? not necessarily because we hate it, but because it was, let's just say, built-in evilness and wickedness, and it needs to be completely removed, cleansed. That's just the way it is. Anyway, the only reason why I think I really wanted to kind of push this onto you guys tonight was because there's still so much hope in the Trump thing. And I got to tell you, Kamala is so wicked, so evil, everything that she represents and the potential of what she could implement policy-wise is horrible. And Trump naturally has been saying some very important things, like he's going to end these wars immediately. These are very positive. Of course, there was a third attempt on his life, a third attempt in 2 months, this time a bomb along his parade route or wherever it was. No big deal, people. Just the third assassination attempt in 2 months on a person that is most likely to be president. This is not, it's not policy. It's definitely something that we should be concerned about. But I personally don't think that Trump plans to be president. I think that he's going through the motions and he's going to win or lose by a slim margin. And he's going to claim election interference like he did the last time. And it's all a big choreographed active part of theater, very violent theater. But that's what this government is. It's very violent theater. I really don't think he plans to win. I think they're going to railroad us into this Kamala thing. Really scary. Really scary. But at the same time, when you have pillars of our society, leaders, influencers, saying things like, "Way to go, Israel, what a tricky maneuver that you pulled, blowing up all those small explosives in Lebanon. Wow, what a great idea, how sneaky you were." I just can't get over the stupidity. I am so over the wholesale retardation that allows this government to continue. Unfortunately, I know we're not going to be able to vote out this cancer, and we're certainly not going to conduct a coup or some sort of a violent revolution. Obviously, that has nothing to do with what our plan is. Our plan is to use every method that we have to expose what's under the Getty, to expose the actual criminal activity that's going on down there that will be so heinous and so shocking that people will actually be forced into changing the policy, changing the system. But again, as I try to impress upon you tonight with this show, is that this system, this structure, this thing called the government, it will be gone completely. This so-called democracy, gone. This republic, whatever, gone. As corrupt as the founding fathers may or may not have been, as conscientious or as good meaning as they were or not, it doesn't matter at this point, because the patient, the being, the body that once was our government is dead. It's long, long dead. It's long dead. There are no cells of the original body that represented the core belief philosophy of our country that are still alive. It's been replaced by a wicked, evil, disgusting pustule. I can't even think of a proper, well, let's just say filth. It's been replaced with filth. The grand concepts that once were our country has been replaced by filth. And we're not here to point fingers at who's responsible for that filth. And we're not here to tell you what to do about it. But we are telling you to open up the Getty and look inside of it and look at the source of the filth and deal with it so that the flow of the filth onto the surface of the earth can be stopped. Nothing stops until we go underground. And remember, that thing underground, those people under there, those cavers, those entities, those leaders of the so-called policymakers, those extorters, they're not part of any government. There is no government down there. Is it a monarchy? Somewhat. Are all of these so-called democracies and so-called sovereign nations actually controlled by this system, this pseudo-monarchy that's living underground? Perhaps. It's very, very likely. Anyway, that's the nature of Occupy the Getty. Occupy the Getty. What is Occupy the Getty? Occupy the Getty is to end the entire corrupt system of the world. Is it to rescue all the children? Yes. What is it really? It's really exposing the corruption that is responsible for the poisoning and corruption of the world. It's the only answer. It's the only plan. It's the only way we're ever going to end this. There is no other alternative. Nothing you do, nothing you devote your life to will have any difference. You could spend the rest of your life chasing after money. For what? To polish the brass railings on the Titanic. It's all going away. Your entire society is built on you gaining money, building up your lifestyle, having the best life you can have. For what? Anyway, people, bottom line, if I'm committing treason, what am I committing treason against? I'm definitely committing treason against this policy. I do not agree with the policy. I want it to end. I want it to change. I'm anti this policy. I think that the Occupy the Getty mission is the only way that we can change this. I think that the enemy knows this. I think it's only a matter of time before we actually are able to do this. Hopefully well within my lifetime. I would really appreciate that, guys. All right, listen, I want to thank you guys that have joined me. You know, we got a pretty decent crowd, but you know how it is. I mean, I'm not on Twitter, but somebody right before the show, somebody asked me, I don't know, hopefully it's not a scam. They said, well, you want me to help you get back on Twitter? And I'm like, oh, okay, well, hopefully we'll see about that. But I want to remind you all, because it's just one of those things I got to do. If you want to help me out financially, help me pay the bills, please use the PayPal and say it's for friend or family. And the PayPal is StephenKelly714@yahoo.com. And if you need to get a copy of the book, you need to get healing, you need to talk to me for any reason, you want to book an interview, you just need to talk to me for some reason, please contact me at law17gun@aol.com. That's my primary email for correspondence. And what else? Of course, if you have not done it yet, please join the Telegram group, Occupy the Getty /Stephen D. Kelly. And I'm happy to say we just passed 7,000 people. Thank you very much. I know a lot of you people are coming from Twitter. I think that one of the problems is in our society is that we take advantage of sources of information, important information. I know a lot of you have told me you miss my feed and your news feed, you know, the stuff that I used to post. Well, that's very unfortunate, but here's the thing. You've got to be responsible for this information. So when the good information comes along, you've got to download it. For instance, all those memes and things, files that I put out there that are gone, you should have downloaded that stuff, had it backed up. Okay. All right. So help me out economically if you can. Join that Telegram group, Occupy the Getty /Stephen D. Kelly. And what else? That's really about it. Like I said, though, I am creating a Rumble page. I guess eventually I'm going to have that. Well, I will have that on all these videos. I'll have that listed because that's where they're going to be on Rumble. I mean, Cynthia has been running a Brighteon account for a long time. There's quite a few other people who I encourage to try to come up with mirror accounts. The main reason why I am doing this right now is I just need to organize all these videos in one place and try to get all the titles and names and numbers and artwork and everything organized as best I can, before I die. Because it's all over the place, and I'll tell you, it is a lot of work. Trust me. I mean, I've, 500 something shows, and each one of them takes so long to upload. It's a lot of work. Anyway, so it helps me to appreciate other people's efforts. And I'll tell you, Wooter, I had to use your files, your discs that I made for you of shows just to help me find all my files. It's crazy. Yeah, it's like it tells me I really do need to get new hard drives and new flash drives and fun stuff like that. Yep. Got to do some dusting and all kinds of fun things got to do. Anyway, guys, thank you for being with me tonight. And I hope I get the opportunity to chat with you in our Telegram group. And if you are interested in becoming a Jedi, please send me an email. That's important, of course, but it's the same old fine. All right, guys. With that, once again, my name is Stephen D. Kelly, and this is Truth Cat Radio, or this is the Stephen D. Kelly Show on Truth Cat Radio, www.truthcatradio.com. Let me see, what is it? It's 6:48, 49, relatively early. It's still September 19th, 2024. All right, well, I suppose I'm happy with my ability to give you this treasonous information, but I hope you realize you can't tolerate it. Sooner or later, you got to be like Mel Gibson in Braveheart. Freedom! You know what I'm saying? Yep, that's right. All right, guys. I'll see you next week, okay? I hope, God willing. All right. Until then, good night. God bless. Adios. And goodbye.